Hi, I'd like to share with you how to use this fate chart from the Mythic Game Master emulator. It's not as intimidating as it seems. The purpose of the fate chart is to answer yes or no as a game master would. This will then allow uncertainty, surprises, and narrative twists. From an outcome perspective, you are only looking for one of four answers, either a yes, a no, an exceptional yes, or an exceptional no. Neither of them are good or bad, it all depends on what you're playing. And then occasionally, Mythic will throw in what are called random events. Today we will only learn how to resolve rolls in accordance with the Mythic Fate chart. Random events are their own thing. Now, back to the Fate chart. First, let's look at the odds. The odds reflect how likely something feels in the story right now. How confident are you about your odds? So, from bottom to the top. Impossible, nearly impossible, very unlikely, unlikely, 50-50, likely, very likely, nearly certain, certain. Whereas the chaos factor reflects how unstable or chaotic that the story has currently become. This ranges from you being in total control to you being completely at the mercy of fate. For determining odds, it's quite simple. If you're not sure, just go with 50-50. Otherwise, lean in with the fiction. Move your odds up or down accordingly. Accordingly means, if it will happen, you're certain. If it will not happen, it's impossible. And if it could lean either way, it's 50-50. Let's try something. Say that you are at a tavern. A question would be, does the tavern keeper recognize me from last night? Yes or no? Your context. You've spoken with a bartender recently. The bartender relies on regular patrons. Nothing at present obscures your identity. You look exactly as you did before. For a situation like this, your odds would be likely, which means that it is likely for the tavern keeper to recognize you from last night. Likely means that the narrative leans towards yes. A yes, though, is never guaranteed. For instance, the tavern keeper might not be around, he is with his assistant, and so on. You decide. Here's another example. Say you find yourself captured or stuck or imprisoned in a villager's farmhouse. Your question might then be, is there a hidden or escape tunnel in this farmhouse? Consider then your reasoning context. It's an ordinary building. There's no sign of fortification. There's no prior hints in the fiction. So, your chosen odds for something like this would be unlikely or higher. Meaning that it is unlikely for there to be a tunnel in the farmhouse. Now let's look at it orthogonally from the chaos factor side. Say you've just succeeded at some goal in a scene, and everything went well. When the narrative is stable, fate should behave predictably with fewer twists. Here's a snapshot. The road is quiet. Morning fog lifts from the field. You have a clear map, full rations, no enemies are pursuing you. You might then assign a chaos factor of 3. For a scene like this, nothing is pressing. Events must unfold logically. Fate should not, or at least rarely, intervene. And now, a high chaos factor, say 9. Say that everything has gone completely wrong. The story has become volatile. A visual scene would be. Smoke fills the corridor, alarms ring, you're wounded, your spells are half spent, there are footsteps behind you, some plan of yours just failed, catastrophically, extreme time pressure. In this sort of scenario, the story invites reversals, coincidences, and sudden turns. Thus why here I might assign a chaos factor of 9. These two things, odds and chaos factor, would be taken together to decide whether your role is a conservative and grounded one, or a volatile and dramatic one. Question: does the city guard let me pass without questioning? Where the world is stable, when the guard is behaving by the book, and where you would expect a straightforward yes or no, and there's very low chance of twists. Here the odds would be unlikely, and the chaos factor would be 3. Another question for the oracle: does my spell work despite the disruptions? The outcome is uncertain because you're in the midst of battle. There should be a high chance for an exceptional result, as would be ideal for turning points or climactic scenes. So here I would perhaps assign odds of 50-50, but a high chaos factor of 8. You are essentially always asking, what makes sense in the fiction to determine odds? And then you ask, how wild is the story right now to determine your chaos factor? And once you've done this, then you roll. And this is where you begin reading the fate chart cell. A fate chart cell consists of 3 numbers or 2 numbers with an X figure. These are essentially percentile thresholds on a D100 roll. That's a bit hard to understand, so maybe think of them instead as bars. Anything before the first bar is an exceptional yes. Anything between the first and second bar is a yes. Second and third bar, no. And the last or rightmost bar is an exceptional no. Oh, and the X. When this figure appears, it means that the results of the side featuring that X cannot occur. Now let's put this all together by browsing the fate chart. At the extreme top right, yes is overwhelmingly likely, and exceptional no's become impossible. And at the bottom left extreme, no becomes overwhelmingly likely, and exceptional yeses become impossible. Let's look at this another way. At the topmost left, you are extremely sure, and things are under control. At the topmost right, you are still extremely sure, but chaos is wild. Whereas, bottommost left, you are attempting the impossible, but in a safe, controlled environment. And bottommost right, you are attempting the impossible in wild chaos. When rolling on your narrative, there is value in looking first at the extreme ends of the fate chart. One lesson I should stress is how the chaos factor at the extreme sides actually helps, because it makes what's likely more likely and what's unlikely dramatically surprising, which is what you want from a narrative. So high odds plus high chaos means that the world is wildly helping you. Exceptional yeses become common. No is nearly gone. High odds plus low chaos means that you are confident, but the world is stable. So it's mostly yes, but still some no's. Low odds plus high chaos means that things could flip in chaotic, surprising ways, rare, dramatic. Exceptional yeses are possible. And with low odds and low chaos, nothing is going to change. You will only get no outcomes. Low chaos means that reality behaves as expected, whilst high chaos means that you give room to things that can override your confidence or your expectations. This seems more like structured doubt for purposes of narrative rather than probability maths, although I would be very happy if people corrected me on this. So, having learned all that we have, let's try a full resolution process. First, ask a yes or a no question. This part really depends on your narrative. It could be a creature or a threat question. It could be an environment or an exploration question. It could be something about the social or political tension. It could be about secrets. But particularly for Mythic, it could also be a stakes-based question. Stakes-based questions are excellent for Mythic because they actually resolve the uncertainty of narratives, particularly for solo RPGs. Let's take a simple question. Is the dragon asleep when I arrive? You have an ancient dragon in its lair. Dragons are territorial and they're dangerous. And you know it's nighttime. And dragons are known to sleep on their hoards, but lightly. Nothing yet implies the dragon is alerted, but nothing guarantees deep sleep either. So, I would choose the odds for this to be likely. Dragons do sleep. Their lairs are typically quiet. Dragons are also vigilant creatures. So this leans towards likely, but not strong enough to be very likely. I would, however, assume the current chaos factor to be higher, perhaps around 6. The reason. The adventure is in motion. Some plans have maybe worked, some have failed. But the tension is rising. So once you've determined the applicable odds and chaos factor, you locate the fate chart cell that applies. And then you roll a d100. Say you roll this value, which, if interpreted against the fate chart cell, gives you an exceptional yes. Now you take this oracle result and you translate it into your fiction. So the dragon is in deep sleep. Its breathing is slow and thunderous. Smoke puffs rhythmically from its nostrils. Its claws are slack, not ripping the hoard. I hope that this walkthrough has clarified how the fate chart works in practice and has given you a concrete sense of how odds, chaos, and interpretation come together during play with the Mythic system. Hit like so that the algorithm knows this video is worth showing to other players, solo or otherwise, if this has helped you understand Mythic a bit better. And if you have any questions or want a specific example covered next, drop it in the comments.